Welcome. In this lesson we're going to look at more stop frame animation by creating a clock face. Now this will use some different techniques, but mostly it will just consolidate on what we've already done in both the drawing and also with the last animation lesson. So we're going to continue to improve our understanding of layers and timeline. We're going to look at animating multiple frames and keyframes. We're going to look at a new subject called creating symbols. This is really useful when you're trying to do more complex stuff. And then we're going to look at animating a rotation and using anchor points. And then finally we'll just go over how to preview your work and how to export so it's ready for a video. So I've gone ahead of time and I've already created the clock face for this. So let me just walk you through how I did this. So we've got a new layer here and I've called it clock face, and I've got this circle and it's just a normal grey background, and then I've got a darker inner part of the circle, so the line part, which is a stroke of 10. Inside of that I've used the text tool just to create the 12, the 3, the 6 and 9. If you want to create all of the different elements, that's completely up to you. So one all the way through to 12, that's absolutely fine. And then finally I've just created another circle in the middle just to denote where my actual center point is. Now in order to get all of this in the actual center, what I did is I just double clicked on the circle, and then in the align point here you've got this little checkbox which says align to stage. If you select this, and then you can center horizontally, and then you can center vertically, and that will get you directly in the center. Now because I already have my numbers there, that's obviously messed it up a little bit. So let me just press Control Z and just take that back just so it's there. But in order to get it dead center, that's how you do it. Just check this box here, align to stage, and whatever you've got selected will go center horizontal and center vertical. Okay, fantastic. Once you're happy and you've got your clock face ready, you can just go ahead and lock this layer. Now you can pause the video now, go and create your clock face, make it as funky as you like. You know, it can be a Mickey Mouse clock face if you want, or whatever clock face you want to create. It's absolutely up to you. Make it as adventurous as possible. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to insert a bunch of frames just for this layer here. So I'm going to come up to about 90. I probably won't need this many, but I'm just going to come up to here and just create them so they're ready. So I've selected 90. You can tell that because it's gone yellow. Now I'm going to right click. Now in the past lesson we went to this button here that said insert keyframe, but all we're going to do now is insert frame, okay? And that will just create all the frames we need so that we don't lose any of this clock face throughout our animation. So insert frame, and there we are. We have all of our animations. If we press the red playhead, you'll notice that that will happen all the way through until we get to the end of the animation, which is absolutely great. It's exactly what we want. Now let's create another layer. So we're going to call this clock hand. Now another thing we should do before we go any further, I'm getting really bad at, and I keep forgetting to do this, is to save our work. So let's go up to File and then Save, and save your work. If you haven't already saved it, we do need to make sure that it goes into our folder, so into our animation folder, and then you want to create yourself another folder inside called Lesson 2 Animating a Clock. And then you're going to save it in here as Animating a Clock, and I've got two versions here. I'm currently working on version 2. Okay, so make sure it saves them, make sure you save straight away. Now the reason I want to kind of just get into the habit of saving like this is because when you start animating, there is more chances of things crashing. Okay, so let's move on. We need a hand. So we've got this hand, we've locked this layer. I'm just going to use a line tool. And I've just got this dark grey again, so it's just this one here. And let's just click on that. And I've got a stroke of 10, so it's exactly the same as my width, which is absolutely perfect. Now I'm just going to draw the line here, and I need to make sure it's as straight as possible. And I need to make sure it's slightly longer than my 12 point. Now I can click on my arrow, make sure it's selected, and move it over until you get it to the position you want. Now look at this. If I just move it to one side, you'll notice that it's not going dead center, and I've got this center point here right in the middle where this dot is, and I can see it's not going there. So I'm going to use that little technique that I showed you earlier. With it selected, I'm going to come up to the Align tools. I'm going to make sure my Align to Stages is there. And I'm just going to click this one here, Align Horizontal Center. And now you'll notice it's absolutely perfect. And when you're rotating, it definitely needs to be perfectly aligned in the center. Now, the next thing we need to do is something new. Because if I click on this button here, the free transform tool, you'll notice that we have this white anchor. Now if I move it to this point here into the center, that's fine, and for doing a quick rotation that will work. But the minute I click off and then click back again, this anchor point will disappear. So if I move it down, oops, Control C. So if I move it down, why did it do that? There you go, there's another problem. It's actually just making my thing wider, so I don't want to. But anyway, if I move it down, it will kind of break that, and it's kind of rubbish. So what we need to do instead is convert this to a symbol. Now a symbol is just a reusable component, and I'll show you where that turns up in a second. So if we right click and we go down to the button that says convert to symbol, and we get this dialog here, so we can just call it clock hand, and the type of symbol that we're creating is this graphic. Okay, and then we press OK. The symbol is there, but you'll notice that it looks ever so slightly different. It's because it's a fixed symbol, and it's harder to edit, which is great, and we don't want to edit it after we've created it. Now where symbols turn up is in this little library here. So if I clicked and I dragged, I could have as many of these as I want. Obviously at this particular moment I just want one, but for the extension you might want to do your second hand as well, which would be great. So we've got this, and now we need to move this anchor point to the center here. So I click it and drag it down. It's not working. So let's go back to my free transform tool, and I'm also going to zoom in as well. So grab your zoom and just zoom into this point, because if you don't, you won't be able to see what you're doing. So free transform tool and then drag it down, and all of a sudden it's starting to work, which is great. We are going to need to make sure it's dead center, so you can see that that's absolutely perfectly in the center, and we are happy. Now when I click off of it and then click back, that rotation point or that anchor point has stayed there, which is exactly what we need. So let's go back and show all again. Now if we stay on the free transform tool and I click on this handle here until the rotating little wheel turns up, and you'll notice that now it's all going wrong. So let's get back to the rotating handle. For some reason I can't get it. There it is. Now if I rotate, you'll notice that it stays in the center, and I'm ready to animate, which is going to be absolutely brilliant. So let's start the animation. If you haven't got your anchor point set up there, you can go ahead and do that now. Set up your hand and let's start animating. So pause the video if you need to. So I'm going to do this in increments of 5, so 5 frames per every movement. So if I right click on this top one and then I say insert keyframe, then what I need to do is get the circle, and we're just going to move it to where the 1 point would be, which is about there somewhere. Once we've done that, we're going to move the playhead to 10, or click on 10, right click and insert keyframe, and then we're going to rotate it. It keeps doing that until we get to about the 2 point. So there we are, we're at the 2 point, and we're going to keep doing this until it goes round once. Okay, so let's move on to the 15. Right click, insert keyframe, and then let's move it to that 3 point. Make sure you get the right handle. It's done it again. Control C if it keeps doing that. I'm not sure why it keeps doing that, but we'll try and work that out. There we go, that's better. Get on the 3. Now let's move it to 20, and it is quite time consuming, but I'm going to go through all the parts. Now you don't have to watch me do this. If you want to fast forward, that's absolutely fine. If you want to watch me carry on, that's absolutely fine also. So insert keyframe, and then move it along. And then move it along to 25. Insert keyframe. There we go, that's better. Then number 30. Insert keyframe. I'm starting to get the right point now. No, I'm not. I did it again. Control Z. Insert keyframe. There we go. It might be because my hand is a bit too small actually, but it doesn't matter, we just keep going. Insert keyframe, and it's a little bit laborious, it does take a little bit of time, so thank you for your patience on this one. And by the time you get to it, it'll be absolutely fine, you'll be happy. So insert keyframe, move it along, and then do the same again, insert keyframe, move it along. Let's done it again. Insert keyframe. And then the last one, here we go, insert keyframe. And then move it to our 12 point, and we're there. There we go, fantastic. And we just need to get rid of all these frames after this point now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create one more keyframe here, or two keyframes in fact. Let's try it one more time. There we go, insert keyframe there. And then we're just going to delete everything after that point. So select everything just by clicking and dragging over both two layers, and right clicking and click clear frames. And there we go. Actually that's still not done it. It must be delete frames. Where's our delete frames? Clear keyframe. Nope. Control Z. One more time. There must be a remove one there somewhere. There it is, remove frames. There we go. So now when we go back, we should have a clock that goes forward. We can press the play button. Fantastic. And if we press Control Enter, we can preview it in the browser. Fantastic. And because it's on rotate, or it's on loop, it will keep going, it will keep going. We've got a bit of an issue there where it stops, but hey ho. Okay, and then finally we just need to export this to our folder. So click back onto the timeline, go File, Save, so don't forget to save your work, and then File, Export, Export Video. Make sure you've got the Convert Video in Adobe Media Encoder selected. Make sure it goes to the right one. For some reason it keeps going to the wrong one, so let's go and put it in there. So click on the Browse button, click on Animate a Clock, and press OK. And then press export. Give it a few seconds just to wait for Adobe Encoder to appear. A few more seconds. There we go. Make sure it's selected the H.264. If it hasn't, you can just select it from the list. Make sure it's going to the right one. Make sure it's called the same, and then press the green play button and wait 2 seconds. And it's done. You can close this and we can go over to our folder. So if we click on Adobe Animate, Animating a Clock, and it's going to be one of these. It tends to be the biggest one, so it tends to be this one here. So for some reason it keeps creating two, so I'm going to delete this one. You can also delete these. These ones here are just the preview, and it makes kind of an app for us, but we don't need them, so we can just delete those as well. And when you press Control Enter, that's the files that it creates. So let's just double click on this, make sure it's our clock. And there we go. Now we can upload that to the assignment and you are done. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson.